Good day, everyone. Today, we are diving into the mind-blowing story of how a group of brilliant scientists, from Hooke to Leeuwenhoek, Schleiden, Schwann, and Virchow, uncovered the tiny invisible world of cells and built the cell theory that explains how all life begins. A cell is the basic structural and functional unit of all living organisms. It carries out the essential processes that keep an organism alive. Before, most biologists believed that life may spontaneously arise from any inanimate matter. Aristotle, a Greek philosopher, was one of the earliest recorded scholars to propose the spontaneous generation theory. This theory persisted in the 17th century until Francesco Redi, an Italian scientist, disproved it by performing an experiment that refutes the idea that maggots arise spontaneously from meat. It was followed by different scientists who also conducted their own experiments to disprove this theory. Louis Pasteur, a French chemist, disproved this theory conclusively with his famous swan-necked flask experiment. He proposed that life can only come from pre-existing life forms. All living organisms, especially plants and animals, are composed of at least one cell. Most cells are just not visible to our naked eye. Thus, microscopes are deemed important to study them. Robert Hooke, a British scientist, was the first to use a simple microscope to examine a thin slice of oak tree bark called cork. He observed blocks of tiny packets that make up the cork and called them cells. Why are cells so small? Does their small size have something to do with their function? Cells are extremely small. Most are way smaller than 1 millimeter, and some are just 1 micrometer. Anything smaller than that is measured in nanometers. Since cells are tiny but still living things, we need a microscope to see them clearly. Atoms, lipids, proteins, and viruses are extremely small. You need an electron microscope to see them. While bacteria, mitochondria, and most cells, both animal and plant cells, are small enough that you can see them only with a light microscope. Eggs like frog, chicken, and ostrich eggs are much bigger and can be seen with a naked eye. Surface area to volume ratio in cells. Cells are small, so food and waste can move in and out easily. When a cell is tiny, it has enough surface area to handle everything it needs. Big cells struggle because materials can't move around fast enough. A tiny box has a lot of surface compared to what's inside it. If you put many tiny boxes together, the total surface area becomes larger even though the overall size stays the same. More surface area means things like nutrients and waste can move in and out easily. Next, I'm going to introduce you to the brilliant scientist who discovered cells and helped shape the cell theory. Hans Janssen and Zacharias Janssen invented the first primitive microscope, which was used to view microscopic cells. Robert Hooke was the first to observe the cells by using a cork from the bark of an oak tree under the microscope. The experiment of Francesco Redi disproved the long-believed theory of spontaneous generation, which states that life comes from inanimate objects. Anton van Leeuwenhoek was the first to see and describe microorganisms from a drop of water by using a self-made practical microscope. Matthias Schleiden is also one of the proponents of cell theory who stated that plants are made up of cells and that the cell is the basic unit of life. Theodor Schwann is also a proponent of cell theory who stated that all organisms are made up of cells. And lastly, Rudolf Virchow, another proponent of the cell theory who states that cells come from pre-existing cells. Through successive cell division, many cells can reproduce from a single cell.